The plane missing for 17 years. Found in the desert reveals a heartbreaking tragedy in history. Hello and welcome to 10 Minutes Discovery. Dear friends, on April 4th, 1943, a B-24D aircraft of the U.S. Army Air Forces, named Lady B. Good, carried out its first mission in Italy. This was one of the few planes that could not return to its base in Libya. Initially, authorities believed it had crashed into the Mediterranean Sea, and early search efforts yielded no results. 10 years later, in 1958, a team conducting oil exploration flights over the Libyan desert discovered Lady B. Good. Although damaged, the wreckage was well preserved in the dry heat of the desert. Surprisingly, the radio and some other equipment were still operational, but no signs of the crew were found. In 1959, local authorities organized a month-long search for the crew, but it was unsuccessful. It wasn't until 1960, 17 years after the plane went missing, that the remains of 8 of the 9 crew members were found scattered across the desert. Along with them, the diary of co-pilot Robert Toner was also discovered, revealing details about the crew's ordeal after the crash. According to this account, 9 people jumped from the plane, and 8 initially survived. They walked about 136 kilometers before 5 gave up, leaving only 3 to continue until they collapsed. However, the body of the gunner, Vernon L. Moore, was never found, and this remains one of the great mysteries in aviation history. Was his body swallowed by the desert sand, or did he somehow survive in some remote place on Earth? There may be other mysteries we are unaware of. It's difficult to provide answers, but when an aviation disaster occurs, it leaves us with much grief and loss, doesn't it? But that's not all. In recent years, scientists and archaeologists have continuously uncovered missing aircraft from decades ago, along with fragments and the unfortunate remains of crew members and passengers. Let's take a look back at those discoveries right now. Aircraft wreckage and remains on the Aletsch Glacier. Switzerland, renowned for its stunning natural beauty with snow-capped mountains and the largest glacier in Europe, the Aletsch Glacier, has long been a destination attracting tourists with its majestic landscapes. However, this place is also witness to a tragic story about a plane crash that occurred more than 50 years ago. Covering an area of over 120 square kilometers, Aletsch has long been a site for climate change research, with less snowfall in winter and abnormally high temperatures in summer. These phenomena have caused the glacier to melt, leading to serious environmental consequences and the discovery of wreckage from a missing aircraft. It is known that on a summer day in 1968, a Piper Cherokee aircraft, registered as HBOYL, crashed near the Chestgen Glacier. After more than half a century, fragments of the plane and human bones have been discovered on this glacier. This is the result of glacier melting due to climate change, causing long-lost items to resurface unexpectedly and mysteriously. Notably, the limited technology for search and rescue at that time made it impossible to locate the wreckage. Today, significant climate change has provided a new opportunity for investigators to uncover the identity of the accident in ways previously unimaginable. The story of this crash is not just a historical event in aviation. It also serves as a living testament to the power of nature and the ongoing environmental changes. It reminds us of the importance of environmental protection and scientific research to better understand the impacts of climate change on the geography and history of our planet. The unfortunate passengers on a Flight 56 years ago. On the shores of Folsom Lake in California, known for its stunning landscapes, a mysterious story from the past has been unexpectedly and poignantly uncovered. During an equipment inspection on a hot day, staff from Seafloor Systems, specializing in underwater surveying and mapping, discovered an unusual object on the lake's bottom. Jeff Riley, an environmental technician at the company, was the first to see survey images that showed a cluster of wreckage with clear signs of an aircraft. The object is located about 50 meters deep, covered by a thick layer of mud that has kept it hidden from the outside world for 56 years. A remote camera was then deployed to capture detailed images of the tail and propeller of the aircraft, suggesting that this could be the remnants of a missing plane from 1965. However, Seafloor Systems could not determine specific identification information about this aircraft, although the traces closely matched the story of a plane crash many years ago. It is known that in 1965, a plane full of lives crashed into Folsom Lake after a terrible collision with another aircraft at an altitude of nearly 3,000 feet. On board were pilot Ford Marshall, brother of pilot James Marshall, along with Helen Gotcher and Glenn Emick, a local high school football player. Although the aircraft was damaged, it was still able to fly and land safely, leaving part of it submerged deep in the lake. For decades, the disappearance of this plane has been a mystery for the community and the families of those on board. All efforts by authorities in 2014 to locate the missing aircraft were unsuccessful, until recent inspections of Folsom Lake during a drought finally revealed traces of it. However, the question of whether this is indeed the plane that went missing 56 years ago remains a significant mystery for scientists. Nevertheless, this discovery has provided answers and closure for those affected, affirming that all the mysteries on this planet can be unraveled with the aid of modern technology and research. The plane missing for 80 years in the Himalayas. An emotional story of search and discovery has emerged from the Himalayas, where a cargo plane has finally been found nearly 80 years after it disappeared, carrying the fates of 13 people on that fateful flight in early 1945. The aircraft, which took off from Kunming, China, was en route to Arunachal Pradesh, a region straddling the territories of India and China. Bad weather forced it into treacherous mountainous terrain, and from that point on, there were no traces of the plane or its passengers. However, Clayton Kuehls, an American explorer, became a key figure in this search. He was hired by the relatives of one of the missing passengers. His expedition traversed hundreds of miles of forest, enduring harsh conditions for months, and they lost 3 local guides who perished from the cold while setting up camp in the snowy region. Finally, in December 2021, they discovered the plane covered in snow and confirmed that it was indeed the long-lost aircraft, identifiable by its tail number. Unfortunately, no remains of any bodies were found inside, only remnants of a tragic event that had occurred. Bill Scherer, who hired Kuehls and lives in New York, shared his emotions, saying, "I am very happy to know that it has been found. This is a heartbreaking story, but it also brings some joy. I grew up without a father. My mother had to live with the sorrow and knew nothing about her husband's death. She faced many difficulties raising me. I was just 13 months old at the time." It is also known that the disappearance of hundreds of American military aircraft during World War II in the regions of India, China, and Myanmar has occurred. Despite various search efforts and hypotheses, the exact causes of these disappearances remain an unsolvable mystery to this day, continuing to be a significant enigma for humanity. 217 passengers on Flight 990 in 1999. You might not believe it, but Halloween 1999 became an unforgettable tragedy in aviation history when Egypt Air Flight 990, en route from Los Angeles to Cairo, suddenly vanished and plunged into the Atlantic Ocean. All 217 people on board, including passengers and crew, perished in this disaster. Following the incident, the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority began an investigation. However, due to resource limitations and the event occurring in international waters, they required assistance from the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB. Experts from the NTSB quickly joined the investigation, and after an initial examination, they made preliminary determinations about the cause of the crash. The NTSB hypothesized that the co-pilot had deliberately caused the aircraft to dive into the ocean. However, they could not pinpoint the exact cause or the specific reason for this action. Egypt's response was markedly different. They attributed the accident to a technical failure on the aircraft. At that time, the differing viewpoints between the two parties complicated the situation further. While U.S. officials suspected some personal factor was involved, Egypt chose to frame the issue as a technical problem. Public opinion and experts expressed concerns and dissatisfaction with both theories. Meanwhile, the recording of the captain's final moments during the flight became a focal point in the investigation. His words, "What's happening? What's happening? You turned off the engine, right?" And the co-pilot's response, "I believe in God," raised many questions about what really occurred on that ill-fated flight. Was this an accidental crash, or was there intent behind it? This remains an open question without a definitive answer. Despite the years that have passed, the crash of Flight 990 continues to be a significant mystery in the history of global aviation, and it's terrifying to think that it could have been a deliberate act. So, for those of you who often speak negatively, don't be foolish enough to fly again. You might bring misfortune upon yourself and others. World War II fighter aircraft. A legendary story of the Kitty Hawk P-40 fighter plane, an icon of World War II, has been revived after lying dormant for 70 years in the Sahara Desert in Egypt. This aircraft has been identified as belonging to the Royal Air Force, piloted by 24-year-old Dennis Copping. In 1942, Copping's Kitty Hawk encountered trouble, and he attempted to land safely. After the plane was damaged, Copping took off in search of another base but never returned. Rumors suggest that he survived and used the remnants of the aircraft as shelter, but he later went missing in the desert while trying to leave the crash site. To this day, Copping's plane remains at the site in nearly intact condition. However, no traces of the pilot's body have been found near the aircraft. Researchers believe his remains may have decayed and could be anywhere within a 30-kilometer radius of the plane. Due to concerns about protecting the site and preventing interference from local residents, historians have urged the British government to intervene and preserve the aircraft's location. They worry that locals might collect pieces or equipment from the Kitty Hawk as souvenirs or sell the valuable metal components. You may not know, but preserving this aircraft is not only of historical value. It also serves as a tribute to the soldiers who sacrificed their lives during World War II. This brings hope that conservation efforts will keep the story and memory of Dennis Copping and the Kitty Hawk P-40 alive in people's hearts. The final resting place of Flight MH370. One of the greatest mysteries in aviation may soon be solved, as researchers have revealed a suspected location for the final resting place of Flight MH370. The Malaysia Airlines plane disappeared approximately 38 minutes after taking off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia, en route to Beijing, China on March 8, 2014. Despite extensive searches by various governments and private companies, the MH370 aircraft has never been found, and the fate of the 237 passengers remains unknown. Recently, a new 229-page report has been released, claiming to contain crucial clues about the last known position of MH370. According to the report, most of the aircraft's wreckage is likely located about 1,560 kilometers west of Perth, Australia. This new discovery is the result of using a weak signal radio wave transmission system called WSPR by researchers Richard Godfrey, Dr. Hannes Coetzee, and Professor Simon Maskell. The researchers stated, "This technology has been developed over the past 3 years, and the result is new, reliable evidence. It aligns with analyses from Boeing and the University of Western Australia regarding the drift of debris recovered around the Indian Ocean. Through this, the experts were able to reconstruct the flight path using data from Boeing, and drift analysis suggests that this is the final resting place of Flight MH370. The report also indicates that the aircraft exhibited a mysterious zigzag flight pattern just before the crash. Consequently, the newly estimated final location of the missing Flight MH370 is believed to be at a depth of 4,000 meters and slightly north of what other researchers and investigators have estimated." Aviation expert Jeff Thomas believes the report holds a very high level of reliability. It has been conducted over 4 years and has been reviewed multiple times. Therefore, they are confident they have identified the position of this aircraft. Missing plane reappears intact in New Guinea after 45 years. In 1985, a twin-engine passenger plane that had been missing for nearly half a century was discovered in a swamp in the jungles of New Guinea. What puzzled everyone was that the aircraft appeared as new as it did when it first went missing, showing no signs of age or deformation. This gleaming silver plane had vanished 45 years earlier while on a flight from Manila, Philippines to Mindanao Island. A team of Indonesian military aviation experts was dispatched to the site. When the investigators first laid eyes on the aircraft, they could hardly believe their eyes. The exterior looked pristine, with the fuselage showing no signs of wear. Investigators assumed the door would be rusty and difficult to open, but to their surprise, the handle turned easily with no creaking or cracking sounds. It opened smoothly. Inside the cabin, there were no signs of life, either living or deceased. However, paper cups, cigarette butts, and newspapers from 1937 remained fresh, as if someone had just been sitting in the plane. The coffee pot still contained hot coffee, and its aroma had not faded. The aircraft's battery was fully charged. Just turning the switch lit up the interior lights. The fuel tanks were nearly full. All these details sent chills down the investigators' spines. They were left wondering whether the appearance of this plane was a coincidence or something deliberate. Was it orchestrated by human hands? To this day, it remains a great mystery. The mysterious missing pilots in the desert. Around the world, there are many places filled with mysteries where anyone who accidentally or intentionally sets foot seems to be swallowed up. Some strange disappearances have been recorded, including cases of pilots getting lost in remote desert areas and vanishing, leaving their planes intact. A particularly odd case of disappearance in the aviation field was documented in Charles Fort's classic book, Wild Talents, occurring in 1924. On July 24th of that year, two pilots from the Royal Air Force, William Conway Day and Douglas Ramsay Stewart, were conducting a routine reconnaissance flight from an airbase in Iraq. At that time, the weather conditions were perfect, their aircraft was functioning well, and both were experienced pilots. Therefore, their 3-hour mission was expected to go smoothly. However, things took a different turn. The two pilots did not return as planned. A day passed with no news of them, prompting immediate search efforts in the surrounding desert. After several hours of searching, the rescue team was astonished to find the missing aircraft in the desolate desert, but there were no signs of the two pilots. Initially, it was thought that the plane might have run out of fuel or been attacked and forced to land there, but upon closer inspection, there was still plenty of fuel in the tanks, and the aircraft showed no damage, either inside or out. The situation became even more mysterious when it was discovered that all of the pilots' belongings and their reserve water were intact. This was puzzling, as it raised the question of why they ventured into the arid desert without any water. There was also a bloodstain found in the cockpit, but its origin remained unclear. Even stranger were the footprints of the two missing men found in the sand around the plane, leading into the desert and then suddenly vanishing about 40 meters away. A similarly bizarre case occurred in 1951 in Arizona, USA. In July of that year, 26-year-old nurse June Marijani Walker and her boyfriend, Klaus W. Martins, a 28-year-old World War II veteran and truck salesman, rented a 2-seat Cessna 140 from AmVet's flight training to attend a trade meeting in Blythe, about 320 kilometers away. Martins was a licensed pilot with considerable experience and took off from East Los Angeles Airport in California under good weather conditions. However, they never arrived in Blythe. Authorities soon uncovered the strange detail that Martins did not file a flight plan before takeoff, forcing rescue teams to search for them along estimated flight paths. After weeks of unsuccessful searching, on August 1st, a forest ranger in Arizona stumbled upon the missing plane outside the range of the barren desert, about 80 kilometers southeast of Yuma, Arizona, and more than 160 kilometers from the couple's intended destination. Remarkably, the plane was undamaged. It seemed the aircraft had intentionally landed there in operational condition, with plenty of fuel and the engine still in good working order. Notably, the radio transceiver was functioning perfectly as well. Inside and around the plane, there were many strange details. A handwritten note was found in the cockpit stating they were walking westward, but no explanation was provided. Outside, there was an arrow stuck in the scorching sand pointing west. It was clear that both had walked out, leaving behind their compass and personal belongings. 2 sets of footprints led from the plane into the desert. After about 5 kilometers, the footprints disappeared as if they had just vanished into thin air. Strangely, heading west would lead them to a desolate area. Why did they choose that direction? An exhaustive search of the area yielded no traces of the missing couple. Why did they land a perfectly operational aircraft there, and why didn't they call for help using their functioning radio? What was the point of trekking into barren lands, and why didn't they take a compass or any equipment with them? Was this an accident, a prank, or the work of extraterrestrials? Were they abducted by Bedouins? Were they potential targets for alien abduction? Why were there no footprints or tire tracks leading them away? All remained shrouded in mystery until 1925, a year after pilots William Conway Day and Douglas Ramsay Stewart went missing, when 2 skeletons were found in the desert and identified through dental records. The website Strange Company proposed a theory regarding this event. Both pilots may have been forced to land due to a sudden sandstorm. Their aircraft may have suffered minor damage, requiring repairs before they could return to base. Some speculate that Day may have sustained minor injuries during the landing, the blood found in the plane, and that as the 2 set off towards safety, he collapsed from exhaustion. Stewart may have continued on his journey hoping to find help for his injured colleague, but he too succumbed to the scorching desert heat. The failure to locate their remains earlier may have been due to constantly shifting sands, swept away by desert storms. However, this theory only partially addresses the many questions raised. The couple, June Marajani Walker and Klaus W. Martins, have remained missing since 1951. The mystery endures. Dear friends, the world is full of mysteries and wonders. What do you think about these intriguing discoveries by scientists? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more exciting discoveries. For now, goodbye and see you next time.